Today our focus is going to be on metrics and results using high net worth content for your marketing firm, to actually market your firm, and specifically we're going to hone in on a couple of the strategies that we use, and I'm going to talk to you about how those metrics equate to our results, and hopefully you'll get something out of this today. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. So if you didn't see the first part, you are more than welcome to go to our Slideshare or YouTube account and watch it at your leisure. So Jesse, before we get started, I'd like to find out who is actually measuring their marketing efforts. So if you could throw up a poll, let's get some interaction here from our attendees and see what they're doing.
All right, in this poll we're asking, do you have a way to measure your content marketing efforts? And we're interested in seeing if you use a system to measure your content marketing efforts currently, or you need a system. All right, looks like we have the majority of our audience have voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. So it looks like more than half, about 80% of our audience need a system to measure their content marketing efforts currently, and 20% have one in place.
Okay, that's good news for us, because some of the information that we'll be sharing with you today will hopefully lead you down that path in either researching or acquiring new ways to measure your marketing efforts. And for those of you who have yet to dive into the content marketing arena, maybe it'll trigger some ideas on how to best go about approaching a system and using content to be part of that system so that you can derive a better revenue stream from it. So let's just talk briefly about some of the issues that we're seeing. I often say that myths are overcome by facts in this area because there's a lot of misconception in the marketplace. And content marketing can actually, the myths surrounding it can actually dissuade you from using content marketing as part of your overall marketing plan. And there are many reasons why firms like those of you who are on the phone do not effectively measure your marketing efforts, particularly when it comes to content. And I'd like to go over a few of these reasons and then talk about how to move beyond them and moving into the measurement of those results. The first myth is that my clients don't consume online content. And I can tell you that some senior marketers say that they target CEOs or CFOs of major companies, or even smaller firms like the privately held business owner, and they think that they don't use search engines or social media to reach those people. It's more, face-to-face or more traditional marketing. However, recently Google's research tells us that the average consumer engages in over 10 sources of information before actually making a buying decision or even an engagement decision. And by that I mean actually actively doing something on your website or your newsletter or some form of engagement that would bring them one step closer to you. Also, according to the research from Demaris and Financial Times, over 60% of senior executives, now get this, read blogs, watch online videos, view webcasts, and use professional networking sites like LinkedIn. So Google Analytics is one of those areas that we as at Innovision rely heavily on for analytic tracking. And Google Analytics themselves is actually finding that on average customers interact with a brand or a firm 4.3 times over a 2-day period before they actually make a purchase. Now that's a general statement that I'm making, but I want you to think about that in the realm of your own business. How many times the same person may come to your website if you're tracking that information like we are. In addition, the average U.S. shopper consults a total of 10.4 new and traditional media sources prior to making a purchase. Now this makes sense because consumers are actually going through an increasingly complex digital journey to find information, to build relationships, and to connect with companies that they want to do business with. And more importantly, they also ask their social networks. So just as a way of costs and ROI, return on your investment, using a tool like Google Analytics is a free resource, and it should be part of your overall marketing measurement toolbox. The second myth is that we don't have time to create content, is what most people tell me. Online content marketing, in my view, is the ultimate informational annuity. For example, posts that we made to our own Slideshare account over a year ago are still being viewed and reviewed. In fact, we carry the same posting over to our YouTube channel, and we see that it's continuing to be viewed there as well. This is also the reason why you have to step out of the one-off campaign mentality. I often see people sending maybe the same thing over and over and over again, maybe different times throughout the year, trying to capture someone's attention. And most of the firms that we see doing this, it's just the general rule rather than the exception. So the ROI on content marketing needs a longer-term view than what we're all used to. So publishing content is a multiplier, and it reaps benefit not only on the platform that it's initially delivered on, but across multiple mediums. After all, a client that is coming to you doesn't come to you for the first time and says, I want to do business with you. It takes time to build trust, and trust building doesn't happen overnight. And on a side note here, Slideshare, at least the version we use, which is the gold version, costs as little as $49 a month and generates a tremendous amount of lead activity and tracking available through their reports. So this is one type of metric that we can't afford to live without. The third myth that I'd like to talk about is a lot of people think that they can just do social media and they don't need content. Well, if people are already talking about you, whether it be online or even offline in these places, you probably don't need as much original content as those that are not yet engaged with finding you. And this is true, and frankly, if you want to be shared or talked about in social media platforms, you need some amazing quality content to make your social media really take off. And as one of my favorite marketing gurus, Jay Baer, states, content is the fire, social media is really the gasoline. The fourth myth I see people thinking about and doing is that they state that they can just do a blog. Well, today a blog is just a ticket or an entry point to the ball game. 65% of B2B companies have blogs today. That means you and I, business to business. In order to be the leading expert for your industry, such as estate planning, financial planning, high net worth planning, you need to take stories and ideas and adapt them to your different channels. For example, with our captive marketing series that we've produced, we did a Slideshare version, multiple webinars, multiple blog posts, a news release, an e-newsletter version, promotions on Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, and more. One recent captive insurance presentation we uploaded last week immediately had 137 views and was essentially free to distribute and redistribute amongst our audiences across many platforms. Now, next we can deliver the same presentation in a newsletter, both printed and e-version. We can do it in a case format, in a PDF. So those can be distributed throughout not only our channels, but our constituents' channels as well. A lot of people think that they're not supposed to be talking about price in the body of their content. And I say, that could be, one of the biggest mistakes people can make. This myth I call is the Marcus Sheridan effect. And for those of you who don't know Marcus, because you're not in the marketing world that we operate in, Marcus is the owner of River Pools and Spas. And about 3 years ago, he became a national spokesperson for pools and spas outside of his geographic area, which was Virginia, and now is what I call the prominent marketing speaker and consultant across the U.S. on how he changed his business model just on his pool concept. Marcus was able to sell more fiberglass swimming pools than anyone in the country by sharing everything, including specifics on price about pools. Just type in anything around pricing and fiberglass pools into Google, and Marcus always comes up and dominates the search ranking. The same philosophy has also worked in marketing his own marketing practice. If you can't talk specific pricing, then at least talk about the dynamics that go into the pricing, your servicing models, what the value proposition is, and how you're going to, how a client that's following you can benefit from that. This is definitely your competitive advantage. No matter what you sell or a service, whether it be a service or a product, it doesn't matter. You can definitely talk about price in your content, and it won't hurt you. Content marketing is separate from other areas of marketing. Well, if you're a big company, that may be the philosophy that you've taken. But on a smaller level, a firm like ours and like yours with under 10 employees, you don't really have the opportunity to segment the content marketing or even marketing plan aspect of your business plan within the company. It's just too big of an issue to tackle. And it's virtually non-existent in most of the firms that I talk to. So this is exactly why we're seeing the rise of what I call the chief content officer role, or even that this function even being outsourced, because the person who can actually help coordinate the storytelling of those types of stories that you want to convey to your end reader as content pieces has to be organized in a way that it can be delivered and disseminated not only throughout your organization, but throughout your clients, your referral sources, etc. So for the small firm, a content provider can be the difference between sinking or swimming in your marketplace. So now we've discovered a little bit about the myths and some of the truths and some of the actual tools and results about content marketing. And now let's talk about the real reason why we're here today, money and measurement. How can content actually turn into revenue? Well, we flipped the marketing funnel, the traditional one, on its head. And traditionally, we could create marketing campaigns and spend time and money marketing to the masses in hope of impacting, the few. And what if I were to tell you to focus on content marketing to only your existing clients and referral sources? Well, you say, I really can't get any more business out of them that's what I would consider profitable. In our experience, we could argue that you're wrong there. Acquisition marketing is becoming more difficult because media continues to fragment this opportunity, and products and services become more increasingly commoditized. For example, the stock market is a commodity, as is estate planning, as is business planning, depending on how you do it. There's always going to be a diminishing return when everybody is doing the same thing. Most of the time, when I am talking to a colleague on the phone or reviewing their website, and I go into a geographic location of theirs, they don't realize that they are doing the exact same thing, maybe not by default or subconsciously or whatever it is that they're doing, that their competitor is doing maybe a mile down the road. So when that comes to light, they now see that the differentiator, especially with the content piece, is a huge player in their marketing plan. So by flipping the funnel, I mean spending fewer resources on acquiring new clients and spending more on acknowledging and retaining the current ones. These satisfied clients, in turn, I believe, can be empowered to share your firm's brand experience with peers and become what we define as the new client acquisition channel. We've been doing this for years, so we know how this multiplier can work. Conventional thinking holds that it costs roughly 5 to 10 times the amount to acquire a new client that it does to retain one. Content marketing could be a key factor in the cost factor in this result. So let's take a look at some of the metrics. Here are 3 key areas that you need to know in order to calculate your return on your investment. How much are you spending to acquire a new client versus retaining actually an existing one? What percentage of your revenue is actually driven by existing clients versus new clients? Well, hardly anyone I know tracks this information, and if they did, they would know exactly where to spend marketing dollars and find it necessary and what to deploy for marketing strategies in order to really receive what we envision as being outstanding results. Your use of a content marketing system can be measured every step of the way, and this is only if your delivery system has tracking capabilities. Many of you have been working and following us for years. I can tell you every single time you came to our website, every time you clicked on a campaign that we ran, every time you viewed an article. This tells me that I'm continuing to nurture our relationship with you. I'm building trust. And without our ability to use Goldmine, for example, and click tracking capabilities to identify who you are, I have no way of nurturing our relationship or finding out even if you're interested or not. I also know many of our followers have been unable to even take the first step in building an email campaign, for example, because I subscribe to their newsletters. I know they're not tracking me because they're not following up with my requests. These are critical tools that would help you and whoever is in your office that's able to convert these leads into actual appointments in bringing that person that you're nurturing more closer to a face-to-face appointment. So if you're not using a contact management system with lead tracking capabilities, you must think about employing one immediately because you're missing a huge opportunity just on an easy newsletter send. So let's start with your newsletters, for example. And if you're like us, we send out e-newsletters. Not only do we send one, but we track every activity a reader takes when they're on it. We do this for a large population of e-newsletter marketing that we do for other people through our sister company, Educate2Motivate. Maybe you're sending a great e-newsletter. Maybe it's good or it's got great stuff in it, but how do you know if it's actually being read? Remember the days of mailing paper newsletters, sending them by postal service? I can't even remember the last time I received a newsletter in the postal service snail mail. And it does seem like it's forever, maybe 4 years ago. Did we know who read our newsletter? Did we know who threw it away before it was even opened? Remember how costly it was to send that newsletter? Now for pennies, not only can you send an e-newsletter, but you can also track who's reading it and what content they're interested in. If they found your content through some other channel, then read your newsletter, maybe because they subscribed to it or got it from somebody else, did they actually go to your website and sign up for it? Did they take a look at your blog or RSS feed on your website? Do you know when people are landing there? Are they finding the content or the information they were looking for? How long did they stay? Did they go on to other pages on your site? Using this Google Analytics tool for us has been a remarkable process in helping us to identify what pages are working on our site, what are people reading, how much time and effort we have to go into to refresh our content, to bring it more current and up to date. And this will tell you how good your content really is. If people stay on that page for an extended period of time, they're more than likely reading through the information that's there and engaged in it. Once your reader is there, have they read your content? Did they engage in signing up for a webinar? Did you actually ask them for feedback or to rate it? Did they conduct some form of online engagement, and did you have the capability to respond? Sharing one piece of content allows for tracking as well. If the content was great, then the share button could be the call to action that you can also measure through analytics. We call this social tracking. If you included links in your content, you can also track these links, and we call this link sharing. You can actually find out where people are referring this to, or if they're adding this to other locations on content that they may be developing as well. How many actually downloaded or watched the content? When we use our Slideshare account, we know exactly what our viewers and our audiences are listening to and what they're downloading. We have the names and the email addresses, and if they put in a telephone number and want us to call them, we know what that looks like. Not all of our information is downloadable, but all of it is viewable and shareable. The end goal is to have a person reading or viewing your online materials and your content in order to take action. All action is measurable. This will tell us if we're meeting our business objectives. There is virtually no one in the marketplace that can provide high net worth content as well as business planning and estate planning content for you to use anywhere at any time on any platform for just $49 a month. We know because we scoured the internet before we realized that you needed our help. You will see why content marketing and its return on your investment is a win-win and a big payoff. If you want samples of our 3 pieces of content that are available to you immediately, put your hand up in the question bar and I'll have Jesse and Chelsea send you those 3 samples of content right away, right now, while we're right on this broadcast. I'd like to find out who is actually creating their own content weekly, because based on what we need currently for lead generation, at a minimum you need to be generating something. And whether you're purchasing content from a content provider or you're not using content at all. So Jesse, could we throw that poll up and just take a quick read on what our audience is actually doing? Because now I'm going to start calculating the ROI once they get into this next series of slides.
Great. So we're looking at how you're generating content currently. 3 choices are: I create my own content weekly, I purchase content from a content provider, or I don't market using content at all. All right, Kim, we got a fast response there, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll.
Oh, great.
And a little over half, 56%, commented they don't use any content marketing, followed by I purchase content from a content provider, and that was 33%. And a little percent of the audience create their own, about 11%.
Okay, good. So this tells us a lot more about our audience and the need to actually become more engaged in content delivery. So let's talk about, sorry about that. Let's talk about it actually, how we're going to take these numbers and actually make them more palatable for all of you on the call today. I'm going to focus just on delivering content using blogging for just a moment. I want you to maybe write down this formula so you can get a better feel on how your costs and your ROI will relate to what I'm about to tell you. Typically, you multiply the hours per month needed to create content by the hourly pay rate of an employee or a subcontractor, if you will, that we have to use to create the content. So that could be somebody in your office or somebody like us that would help you to deploy, in particular, high net worth content. And then you've got to multiply the results by what I call the overhead factor. This would account for overhead, meaning rent, insurance, utilities, whatever it costs to put that person maybe on your payroll or in an office somewhere that would result in maybe a 50% overhead factor. So a $20 an hour per hour employee, which equates to about a $40,000 a year annual salary, it's really about a $30 per hour employee when the overhead is factored into the equation. You have to add in all the other costs such as design fees, hosting fees, and subscriptions, software, for example, because those are add-on costs. And then you have yourself a pretty expensive investment, content marketing investment if you are a small firm. So do you really want to do this on your own? Well, maybe if your firm is growing, maybe if you can become a multiplier of content, assuming that 40 hours a month at $40 an hour is needed to produce a monthly blog, multiplied by that 40% overhead, you add in about $1,000, $1,100 a month for your design and hosting, and then another $100 for miscellaneous fees. Blogging alone would be almost cost prohibitive because it would cost you almost $3,600 a month if you used someone with of this caliber producing quality content for you. Now let's go one step further, because I wanted to talk about how we get to the returns. If you multiply the leads that are generated from blogging, just the blogging alone, and you have a high conversion rate of 20%, let's just say, and you can use these numbers in any way you want, you take your average lifetime customer or client value and the average profit margin that you acquire from any new client. I hope that everybody on this phone is actually paying attention to those numbers. Perhaps you collect maybe 25 leads a month from the content you're posting on your blog. And I mean, you'd have to be posting these on a regular basis, and you have to capture these folks in your CRM system. At a 20% lead conversion rate, you'll generate about 5 new clients, assuming on a high net worth client example that our average lifetime client value is about $30,000 for any one of our constituents. And this holds true for about a 30% profit margin because we're leveraging technology and content marketing as a provider of the profit, that equates into profit margin. So you can use any number you want. You can use 3,000 for lifetime client value, whatever your own, if hopefully you're tracking this, whatever your own costs are. Perhaps in our situation, our monthly blogging return is about $45,000. Now, on a high net worth client, that is highly valuable to us and probably to you if this is all you're doing. So if you take the $45,000, you take out the cost factor per month, you basically come out to about $41,400. And then you subtract the investment from your return and then divide that by your investment. Your ROI comes out to be 1,150%. Well, this is how leveraging and technology and having someone that knows what they're doing help you to find a return on your investment this large. However, it doesn't stop there. What we have found, especially in some of the more recent data research that we are gathering, is that you can't afford not to do content marketing because just from blogging alone, things like videos, articles on your website, the advertisement of in-person events and having in-person events, case studies, e-newsletters, all of that can be multiplied, that ROI can be multiplied by using every one of these platforms that the majority of B2B enterprise marketers are using. So most everybody is using some sort of this. We certainly are. We're probably using over 75% of them. And we find that by leveraging and averaging all of this, our overhead costs are very low and our rate of return is very high. You will note in particular that companies with fewer than 10 employees are spending more on content marketing than the large enterprise companies. This tells you that somewhere along the line there is some market share being derived from the use of content marketing and its effectiveness. And of course this is a recent trend done in 2013. So we know that content marketing is working, especially amongst the smaller firms. So you should be included in that 42%. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can purchase high net worth quality content for as little as $49 a month, and that includes business planning and estate planning content if you choose to use it. It's all included, but we're giving you the opportunity to use high net worth content. We've spent years creating, tracking, and benefiting from it, and now you can too. Our sister company, Educate2Motivate, is very easy to access. You go to Educate2Motivate.com, go across the top of the toolbar, hit the Buy Now button, and use the drop-down menu you see here for content marketing. You'll be able to get your first pieces today, and your credit card won't be charged for 30 days, and there are no contracts to sign. We've actually made this really simple. So now that you know where to get the content from, and that you know you've got the capability and some of the delivery systems we could definitely help you with, but more importantly, the analytics are free. So you almost can't afford not to do this. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever on a more detailed or tactical questions they may have that we could explain to you online today and how we track what we've been doing over the last 10 or 13 years? I'd be happy to take those questions now. Jesse, do we have anybody with their hands up? We're posting a question.
We do have two. The first question was typed in the chat box, and this is from Bill Munch. And his question is this tied into my website?
Great question. So you can tie any content into your website, and with the right tools, Bill, you can actually track that information. So, for instance, in our newsletter, our content offering, or even our newsletter marketing option, you can actually take that those pieces that we provide to you in a Word format. You put your own disclaimers on them, and you can post them on your website. They're given to you the second week of each month, and you can use all three of those pieces: high net worth content, business planning content, and estate planning content, if you choose to, on your website. And I would suggest, because of the way Google algorithms work today, that you refresh your content on a weekly basis so that you become a, I don't want to say become tracked, but you become what Google now identifies as an expert in your area, and will allow you to become higher ranked in your Google search engine pages in your geographic area if you do it the right way. So you have the opportunity to use this in any way, shape, or form you'd like, with really virtually no restrictions.
All right, and then as a follow-up question, Kim, he was wondering if he has to do his own analytics.
Well, you mean if he has to set up his own Google Analytics, or he has to, is that the question? I just want clarity around that.
I'm assuming that's what he's, yes.
Okay. If that's something that you're unfamiliar with, we can give you a tutorial. I mean, I charge by the hour for this kind of thing. Once we get you up and running, the reports actually are generated and come to you as often as you'd like. We'd look at them weekly because we have so many platforms that we post across. So for someone who's in a smaller firm with a much more narrower database of people that they're marketing to, then you probably only want to look at it once a week, unless, of course, you use a newsletter that we provide for you, and you get immediate notification when somebody actually reads your newsletter or clicks on an item in there or requests a call to action so that they can contact you. You get an immediate notification. So that would be different from the Google Analytics. It's a part of our newsletter marketing. But the Google Analytics will definitely help you, on your website for sure.
Great, thanks, Kim.
Sure.
And then we have a hand raised in the audience. Chuck, I'm going to unmute you so you can pose your question. Hi, Chuck, you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
All right, what did you have a question about?
Compliance-oriented concerns. A lot of this material, whether it be newsletters or content marketing, has obviously a number of planning nuances. How do you deal with the respective compliance departments so that the mass emails or the mass webinars that you're sending out, or the information that might be stored on some server that a prospect or a client or a center of influence can access 24/7? How do you deal with the compliance departments that many advisors have to deal with?
Great question. I love that question. Well, we already ran down this road after the last webinar because we had several people sign up immediately. So I will get from you, or Jesse or Chelsea or I will get from you the name of your compliance person in your compliance department. They'll be sent a file for review. We'll ask them to review it. We try and put a deadline on it because sometimes people sit on things for as long as a month. But within 2 weeks, we ask them to return their reply within 2 weeks. Put on any, if you're using our system, the newsletter system, then we ask to put on the disclaimers if they require. Your use of it on your website and anything else that you use as a platform to disseminate this information, whether it be LinkedIn, your Google Plus page, some firms have a Facebook page, depending on what kind of business you're in. Those are all monitored, hopefully, by your compliance department or whatever regulations you're required. The content is available for you to use. It's wherever you place it is where your compliance department should be able to find it, and it should be as it was approved, not changed or meddled with once it was approved.
A follow-up to that, Kim, is, obviously you folks are creating all the materials so we don't have to, so it's creating that leverage. But, you want to be viewed in the marketplace as the expert, as if we created the materials ourselves. How is that presented to the client as far as firm logos and information, or how much of your firm is involved kind of co-branding, or are you really behind the scenes more so your firm and your identity is not necessarily disclosed to the prospects or my specific centers of influence?
Great question, Chuck. And for the first time ever, I think I can answer this and feel really good about it. We don't do any co-branding. We're giving you a white sheet of paper, for example, with information on it that you can edit or add to it or insert a video in between it. You basically don't have anything to do with Innovision or Educate2Motivate anywhere on the forms. Our terms of use has become so simple. The reason why people are like, what, you're probably saying, what are you, crazy? Well, for 13 years we've been marketing this way, and we realized that our marketing actually has brought us many relationships and much business. But for many people, it stopped right there. In other words, they did not know how to deliver content or what to say to a client, and now they have the capability to actually acquire a client by all the work that we've done. So as you know, Chuck, in particular, we've never been selfish in our education throughout the years. We've been trying to teach people exactly what they need to know to go into their marketplace to become an expert, and then lean on us to help them do all the heavy lifting. We're taking that approach with marketing right now, and it is actually working well for several of our folks. I'll give you an example. We had a beta program that we launched this year for captive insurance. Well, and I don't know how many people are on the phone today regarding this because I can't see the list of attendees, so pardon my lack of knowledge there. But the first marketing program that went out came as if the clients were, excuse me, as if the material came directly from the person like yourself, the advisor. The overall responses, because they were not only mailing to referral sources, they were mailing directly, emailing and posting directly to clients in their circles of influence, was unbelievable. And so it just proved to us that if we allow other people to use our intellectual capital and not be restrictive, then by virtue of doing that, our ROI will be far greater than it would have been if we had restricted it. So,
Kim, another follow-up question as it relates actually specifically to the different specific tactical strategies in the marketplace. Speaking of, I was on your call yesterday. I thought it was, Scott did a very good job on that. So from a 25-minute, 30-minute kind of introduction, I actually have, over the last probably 3 years, have really boned up on specifically captive insurance companies. We set up 6 of them last year. We have 4 more going this year, and I might write a book, and now we're marketing that strategy or that idea to other advisors in the marketplace, whether they be insurance agents, financial advisors, attorneys, and more. So specifically on that is, and I know you've done different, scenarios in your business development over the years, but use captives. So somebody contacts you or contacts the advisor because of the webinars and the YouTube videos and the different aspects of captives. That advisor may or may not have a lot of expertise in the captive planning process. How do you then work with the client or with the advisor after there's an interest? Are you involved in the investment side of things, or the captive consulting fees, or setting up the captive, or the legal work, or the accounting work, or the wealth management? And obviously from an estate planning standpoint, there might be some potential insurance planning work to be done. I mean, that's a great planning technique because there's so many potential advisors that could benefit from that strategy, and that's part of the reason why I got involved with it. But how do you deal with that?
well, I don't want to deter from today's program, so can I?
That might be another question for another day. But
I mean, it's very easy. I mean, it's an easy question, but I think I would love to have Scott address that maybe on the next webinar. And just from a marketing standpoint, for those of you who are trying to figure out what Chuck is trying to tell us, it is a strategy. We marketed it effectively in 2012 to our constituents. It opened a lot of enormous high net worth estate planning opportunities, and we found out very quickly that a lot of our audiences did not understand how business succession planning and estate planning could be used with a captive insurance strategy in the overall planning, not just the captive alone. So that's another reason why we opened the door to marketing, helping people market for that specific entity in itself, which has already opened the doors in 2013 to some pretty significant cases. So I'll not answer your question, Chuck, but I will get back to you on that offline if that's okay.
Sure.
Does anybody else have any questions about any of the other, like, more technical, how we use Slideshare, or any other more of the analytical information that I may be able to share with you on today's call?
All right, we just had a hand raised, Kim. So I'm going, Thomas, I'm going to mute you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
So, yeah, Slideshare. Tell me how you use that.
So Slideshare came about a couple years back. It's been since acquired by LinkedIn, and it allowed us to, in the early stages, put up all of the PowerPoints and the notes that were the PowerPoints for all the presentations that we had. So early on, before they had the lead tracking mechanism in place, we were using it to drive people to view, like YouTube, to those PowerPoint and webinar presentations that we were giving. Now, since many changes have occurred, we now post the videos from today's presentation, for example, there. The great thing about Slideshare, as I mentioned earlier, let me just see if I can go back, is the ability to actually track. So we know that 41,000 people have actually, or 41,000 views have taken place across our medium of slides or videos or whatever have you. People can actually rate them if they're a favorite of theirs. Some instances we had the capability of downloading. People can actually share, and and we can actually tell from the search, the traffic source distribution, exactly where they came from. So on this particular slide, 33.9% came from some third-party area, like LinkedIn, or like our Google Plus page, for example. Some of them came from a direct link that we may have had on our website. Some people referred, if you can see that little orange thing, referred somebody else to our site for further viewing. So these are really, or even they Googled, they could have, excuse me, not Googled, they could have searched in Slideshare themselves, because we had a little Slideshare icon somewhere, that 17.2% could have come looking for us that way. So once they get here, they can start to look and see if there's anything else that they would like to view or need education in. We as a firm have the opportunity through the Gold program, through Slideshare, to actually capture a lead if someone feels that they want to get more information from us or would like to download it. They have to actually fill out a form. So it allows us to actually nurture that engagement step, to actually maybe add them to our email distribution list if they're not already there. It gives us an opportunity, and it's a permission-based way to say, wow, not only are they looking here, but we can say to them, well, if they're interested in captive insurance or charitable planning, I have 3 more videos or PowerPoints on captive planning that they may, or charitable planning that they may be interested in. I should send them that over the next, in a series of emails, telling them where to find it over the next, 4 to 6 weeks. So it's been very good for us.
The part that's new to me is the gold version of this. So there's actually a way to actually capture referrals directly from the presentation then.
That's correct. And if you see at the top here, Tom, it says there's a whole way to set up, and I'm not live on this, so I can't click on this link, but there is you can have lead programs, different lead programs on different webinars or different pieces of material by setting up a lead capture program. The other thing that you can do here, which most people know nothing about, is that you can actually send people the PowerPoint presentations or their videos through Send Tracker, which also allows you to, someone sends you an email and say, geez, I missed that, or I want more information. You go right to your Slideshare account, plug in the person's email address, a little note saying, I know you wanted to find out more about charitable planning. Here's an opportunity to do so. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you'd like to talk further. And of course, that Send Tracker goes right, sends a notification right into your email address, your own email address, as a lead right away, so that you know someone has actually read or viewed the information, which is really great.
That is great. Thank you.
Sure. What else may I help people with today?
Let's see. We got another hand raised from Bill Munch. Hi, Bill. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great.
Hi, Bill.
Hi. I have another question for you. On your website for the Educate2Motivate, you have newsletter marketing, content marketing. So the content marketing is $49 a month, and then you have newsletter marketing of platinum, gold, and silver. What's some of the differences between that and the content marketing? And is the content marketing in the silver, gold, and platinum?
So the content marketing is separate. The newsletter marketing is on a different platform. You actually have a choice of 3 different templates. The information in the newsletter marketing is only for you. For example, I'm just giving you an example. You can pick estate planning as your newsletter content. You can pick only business planning as your newsletter content. On the content marketing side, we don't deliver it for you, but we just supply the content. So if you don't have a way to newsletter market, you don't have a way to tie any newsletter marketing into your website, then the newsletter marketing is definitely a way to go. The content marketing can be supplemented so that you can continue to post to your blog, for example. I had a call 2 weeks ago from somebody in California that said, I've just been asked to write articles for a trade organization on this topic. And he said, I don't have the time or the energy to do this. I don't even know where to start. And I said, well, I have 6 articles on that already. Would this be helpful? And away they went. So, the thing about newsletter marketing, blogging, Slideshare, YouTube is that you have got to have some consistency, and you have got to have some sort of structure around what you're disseminating, because people get into this, they sign up for something, and then they, especially a WordPress blog or something, they don't post for months or years on end, and it sits dormant. So the reason why we're giving you both is to get your engines running, if you will, at least get you able and capable of starting to track some of the leads and start to nurture people the way they need to be nurtured in order to get a face-to-face appointment.
So do you use something like Infusionsoft for that newsletter marketing in order to keep track of everything?
Yeah, we don't use Infusionsoft. I know all about Infusionsoft. We have a much more, I want to say, sophisticated system, only in that we've had to build it ourselves. The click tracking is a unique component of what we use. It's I don't want to say similar because it's really not. It gives. Well, I'll show you, because when we went back to Goldmine, I don't know what CRM system you use, but when we track our click tracking and so forth,
right.
Not only do we get the reports from our e-newsletters because we use the same system that we built, it comes into my inbox. If I'm giving a if I'm sending out a newsletter or some sort of notification that we've just created high net worth content, I create campaigns. So I know people have spent time reviewing or looking at things that either they've missed or that they're interested in, and then I can start a dialogue with them. I know I get stuff from Infusionsoft. The worst thing that happens to me is that I can never unsubscribe from them, so that drives me crazy. But you can unsubscribe or subscribe to anything that we create here for any one of our constituents.
Okay. Okay. So the content, though, in the content marketing, that content is in, it includes the stuff that's in your newsletter marketing. It's just the newsletter marketing is more robust for you, where you're actually doing that and getting the analytics. Is that a fair statement? For
you, but again, you're only sending out a newsletter once a month. And the newsletter goes out once a month on the second Wednesday of the month, but it only has, if you are an estate planning person or a business planning advisor, it will only have that piece of content in there. However, the newsletter never dies. So people can actually go into this newsletter and archive it in their Gmail or anywhere else, and they can click on a link in there a month or 2 months from now, and the links will still be live. In other words, you'll still get notifications of stuff that you sent, months ago. So and that's typically, that happens, believe it or not, more often than not when people say, geez, I got this newsletter from Bill, I remember he sent me something, I need to research it. So it never dies on the vine once it, the links are always live. The calls to action.
There's nothing worse than a dead link.
Yeah, that's for sure. So the click tracking is live, the links are live, and they can pretty much, you can put this particular newsletter on your website and still know that it's being looked at as well. We give you the capability to do that.
So if you are licensed for insurance, or you have an RIA and the legal side, and you're kind of doing a wealth management practice, what newsletter would that be? Would you still have to select estate planning or business planning? You don't have like a wealth management newsletter?
We don't have one yet. The majority of the people that we've been serving are trying to go after the privately held business owner, or a high net worth client, or even because we have a large group of attorneys. I mean, that fall into this category. So we have those three things. One thing I can tell you about the wealth management side is that the only thing that I subscribe to just about I have a lot of wealth management firms, and they're not doing a very good job with newsletter marketing. They're sending out stock market or they call themselves wealth management. I should clarify that, because maybe they're not really under the surface.
You shouldn't be focused on the market at all. It should be, maybe investment strategies and stuff, but it's not about returns.
Yeah, and maybe that's more of a conversation. Actually, investment strategies for a face-to-face. It's what do you need to do to get the client to actually talk to you before, as opposed to the next guy down the street, or in these days, even someone in another state, because people are not necessarily using wealth management firms in the same geographic area that they reside in now. So, and that's becoming more common. So, what you're delivering and what you're saying to people has to affect them in ways that are not the norm or you're accustomed to. And let me give you an example on this particularly. If you recall ever seeing some of the case studies that we used to send out, and of course we do this, we used to do this in the beginning of the month, the first Wednesday of the month. The actual case studies that we delivered also came in PDF format. And one of the biggest draws for us was the fact that a wealth management firm could actually send this case study as part of their newsletter delivery system, or even using us as a newsletter delivery system, and actually get a lot of traction out of it. Because wealthy clients, and business clients in particular, were very concerned about other people, learning how other people took the tax world and put it to work for them. And I don't mean cheat the system, but what planning techniques or what planning opportunities did they have in order to better their own situation. So those kinds of things from a wealth management perspective are incredibly helpful if you're trying to reach a client directly, say a CEO through LinkedIn, or even your own clients that haven't got off the dime because you've been talking about this maybe in a tactical situation rather than a story situation. So that's the kind of content that I think a wealth management firm could benefit from, as opposed to, I mean, supplementing it, of course, with anything else they want to do or they have to do. But that's one way to grab hold of someone's attention and start to nurture them through the process.
So you could kind of tailor the content marketing that you already have. You can kind of tailor that in a wealth management aspect.
Absolutely. You could take, I mean, you could even interview one of your own clients and not, I mean, some people say, well, I'd like to, you know, interview a client based on the story that, you know, you've given me this month, or this piece of content that you've given me this month. And they call me and say, how might I best go about doing this? Well, I might say, maybe you survey 10 clients and say, you know, here's what a recent client did for me. Is this something you're interested in? If so, why not? I mean, if not, why not? Or if so, why? And then pick up the phone and call them, and then create more opportunity from that. You know, you're constantly looking for engagement. So don't restrict yourself just because we're delivering the content. Find ways, once someone's engaged with you, to expand on that and you know, and compound it so that it keeps you out in front of them all the time.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. So we're at the top of the hour, Jesse. So we close the program for today, and unless somebody else has a burning question they'd like to ask.
It looks like everything has been answered, so if you're ready, we can wrap the call up.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Jesse, Chelsea, and I would like you to complete the exit survey so that we can continue to bring you informative information like this each month. Hopefully we'll see you at the end of June. And again, thanks again and have a great day.